Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be talking about an active pattern over the next several days here to bring a lot of winter weather for quite a few folks out there, especially across parts of the northern U.S. We also got flash flood risk throughout this week here across parts of the lower Ohio Valley, back into parts of the Ozarks as well. We could see a lot of rain as well. And there's also a couple of days where we could see some severe weather chances across parts of the south as well. Before we get started with this video, if you guys do like weather-related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel. Plus, we'll be having more updates on this subject over the next several days, so definitely stay tuned for that as well. We're going to get started with the watch warning advisory display. And there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and one of the more noticeable things, got a lot of winter weather alerts anywhere from the high plains, the northern Rockies, through the northern plains into parts of the upper Midwest. A lot of those areas is going to experience quite a bit of snow over the next couple days. There's certainly that possibility that some areas could see around a foot of snow as well. Another area we're focusing on is these flash flood watches across parts of southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, into southwestern Kentucky. Don't be surprised if that gets expanded into parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe getting into parts of southern Indiana, and maybe into parts of Ohio and West Virginia as well. Those areas is going to experience quite a bit of rain over the next several days as well. So let's check out the medium range guidance first just to kind of give you guys an overall look of what could be happening over the next several days. So currently, when we look for the GFS, you got this boundary here that kind of sits across parts of the north here, and really you got this Arctic front that sits here. Had a little brain fart there, but anyways, you got this Arctic front that is situated here. You got quite a bit of snow going on across parts of Montana and the coast. That's going to spread eastward with time here. You got this low here that moves through the eastern part of the Rockies, and eventually it's going to move more to the northeast early in the week as well. And this system's going to bring multiple threats. Threat number one, it could bring some strong to severe storms from parts of Texas, Oklahoma. Could go all the way up into parts of the lower Ohio Valley region vicinity as well. There's two different areas we're keeping an eye on potential for severe weather on Tuesday. One of those areas looks to be in the parts of Illinois and Indiana. And there might be another area that may try to show up in parts of the Mid-South as well. There's still plenty of uncertainty with the severe weather risk on Tuesday as well. You also do notice here you got this area here, some heavy showers and thunderstorms, and those are going to be training over some of the same areas as well. And that could lead to some flash flooding issues, especially when it's going over areas that experienced a lot of rain recently. Back on Thursday, parts of Kentucky, back in the parts of Arkansas, has experienced 2 to 4 inches of rain. And they could be talking about more rain than that this week. So, yeah, flash flooding concerns for some of these areas in here. Meanwhile, just to the north here, we got a mix of some sleet and freezer rain that could lead to some ice accumulations as well, especially for parts of Iowa through southern Wisconsin, up into parts of Michigan as well. Right, for the time being, it's not looking to be an ice storm or anything, but it will be close, though. Could be seeing some pretty good ice accumulations up there. And then you got a lot of snow on the backside of the system here as well. It looks pretty light, but keep in mind, you're going to be seeing these multiple waves of light to moderate snow showers that passes through, and you can see a decent amount of snow out of these as well. Eventually that system gets out of here, and here's our next system coming up here in the middle of the week as it does get its act together in the Texas Arcana region. It's got some similar threats with it. Maybe some strong storms in the warm sector, but I think the main focus is going to be on the winter weather side of things, where we could see a decent amount of snow, sleet, and freezing rain as well. And we can also see that flash flood risk return over some of the same areas as well. And this system here would be moving up into the northeast by right around Friday, and this could lead to a pretty good snow for some areas as well. It's too early to talk about how much snow areas could see, but it could be a decent amount out there as well for some of you guys up there as well. And there might be a potential for another system later on. We'll check out the European model on that in a moment. But here's the Canadian model. It's actually pretty similar here. It does have the low track a little bit farther south here. It's also a little bit weaker with the low as well. We pretty much have a little bit of a better agreement of the intensity low and kind of the track as well at around this point here. And then again, a lot of snow on the backside here going on here. It's going to be pretty widespread with some sleet and freeze rain going on in between the low and the snow. Then you got those multiple rounds of showers and storms trending over some of the same areas across parts of the Lower Ohio Valley vicinity. And here comes your next system here. And this is going to be a kind of a concerning setup here. Now, there's uncertainty here if we're going to see heavy freeze rain. It We don't really know the rate of the freeze rain. You got some models are a little bit lighter, like this one here, for example. You got a little bit of a lighter freeze rain going on here in some areas. So it might be a little bit different. It might mostly be light to moderate freeze rain instead of heavy freeze rain. If we see more light to moderate freeze rain, that's going to be a big concern, especially if it trains over some of the same areas throughout most of the event, because if that's the case, we could see some significant icing with this as well. So it's certainly something we cannot ignore with our secondary system here. And there's also could be quite a bit of snow on the backside of the system here, of course, as well. So definitely some similarities to GFS, just a little bit different of a track as well. And here's the European model. It's pretty similar over the next couple of days here. A little bit further north with the track of the low, but honestly, it would not surprise me if some of the models trend back a little bit further south with the low. That seems to be a common thing here. They get a little bit too amped early on and then begin to trend a little bit further south. We'll have to wait and see what happens over the next couple of days, see how the first system will trend. But pretty much very similar impacts here. It's definitely one of the stronger models on this here. But whenever we get some weather balloon data out of the system here, which I think we do already, perhaps, looks like our system, at this point here, our system's in parts of Montana and Wyoming. We might get a little bit better data with this system here probably by Monday as well. But for the time being, it looks like it's going to take a track along really by Tuesday morning along the Iowa-Missouri border, and it kind of goes over to the Chicago area and eventually through southern Michigan as well. It's also a little bit stronger to low than the other ones as well, so there's still a little bit of uncertainty with the intensity of low. And here comes your next couple waves here later on in the week. It takes it on a little bit more of a northern track as well, a little bit more amped with the system as well. And it's also going to try to show another system here by Sunday or Monday, but that's pretty far out at this point here, so it will not surprise me if we see some changes. By the way, most of the other models don't show much of anything with this, but the potential might be there. We could see another system by Sunday, Monday, which will likely take a more severed track as well. But we'll see how things go in that system. All right, let's kind of get a little bit more detail with the first system by first starting looking into the HER model. And I do believe the HER model's got a little bit better handle with this here. It typically has a better handle than the other models, especially in the higher resolution model guidance. It doesn't have as much snow with it, but you can see here for some areas, you're going to get quite a bit of snow for a long duration. So even though you might see light to moderate snowfall, which may not sound like a lot, but keep in mind, it's going to be happening for a long duration, so you can still see a decent amount of snow out of it. And it does try to show some heavier snow bands kind of going along the South Dakota and North Dakota border as well. And then, really by Monday night, you got an area here where freezing rain develops in the parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Could lead to some ice accumulations as well. And that spreads into Michigan. Then when the low comes by, we start to see some more freezing rain start to show up as well. Might be a tad bit dry with the moisture, but for what I've seen over the last several events, this has been a little bit more of an accurate model to use. And then you can also see in the warm sector, here's your strong severe storm threat Monday night. Could lead to some damage winds down there as well, which we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Here's the snowfall accumulations for the Hermal. Likely going to be overkill when it comes to the Kajera ratio, but even bringing it down by a little bit, it's still going to be a lot of snow. I think max in amounts, I think we could see the possibility for some areas. Am I able to see a little bit over a foot of snow? Maybe in some places. I think the better opportunity that might be a little bit further east, where you do get a little bit of lake effect snow enhancement as well. It also should be noted here, by the way, that this actually includes two different systems here. That's something I forgot to mention earlier. But even regardless here, even without the secondary wave, still a lot of snow out there as well. So I think either way, there's going to be quite a bit of snow with it as well. If we compare it to other models, here's the NAM, which we could go out a little bit further. Still quite a bit of snow out there as well. Like it would be overdone with some of those amounts. And here's a high-res NAM. A lot of models like Minnesota and parts of Wisconsin to get a lot of the snow as well. I don't think we're going to see 2 feet of snow. I think I highly doubtful on that. Very overall, it's looking to be a pretty snowy pattern over the next couple of days for parts of the Northern Plains, uh, the Upper Midwest, and even parts of the Great Lakes region as well. And here's ice accumulations from the HUR, and you can see not a whole lot out there. I think max in amounts, I think there could be some areas that could see 2/10 of an inch of ice. And there might be the chance that some areas could see 1/4 of an inch of ice, which is ice storm territory as well. But I think it's generally going to be anywhere from 1/10 of an inch to 2/10 of an inch of ice, with some isolated higher totals out there as well. Some of the highest amounts might be more situated in central Michigan, where they'll be experiencing freeze rain a little bit longer period of time as well. And here's the highest Canadian here, kind of going back to snowfall here, which is another good model to use when it comes to snowfall forecasts. And you can see here it's also got a lot of snow out there as well. But when you use the cut area ratio, it's likely it could be a little bit overdone as well. But let's talk about the probability. So this is your probability at least seeing 2 inches of snow. Yeah, a lot of people's got a pretty good probability. By the way, this is for the next 3 days, by the way. So it does include a couple systems as well. How about at least 4 inches of snow? Some of your highest probabilities looking to be kind of going along the North Dakota, South Dakota border into northern Wisconsin and upper Michigan. At least 8 inches of snow, really anywhere from the Dakotas and Minnesota, a triple point through parts of central Minnesota, far northern Wisconsin, into parts of upper Michigan. And how about a foot of snow? Still got some pretty good probabilities out there. From central Minnesota up into parts of northern Wisconsin and upper Michigan. Some of this is going to be lake effect of snow enhancement in upper Michigan as well. That's something that should be noted as well. And there's even a probability for at least 18 inches of snow, but I think the chances of that is pretty low, like it suggests. The highest probability, 30 to 40% chance. So again, pretty low probabilities for that as well. And then no chance of seeing at least 2 feet of snow. How about the freezer rain potential? So this is again for the next 3 days here. So it does include the early parts of the next system, the secondary system. So you do get elevated probabilities in southeast Oklahoma, parts of Texas. It's crazy to think about that. Tomorrow night they're going to be experiencing severe weather. Then about a day later they could be talking about some wintry precipitation. Kind of crazy to think about that, right? Anyway, it's got the highest probabilities for at least a 10th of an inch of ice, anywhere from eastern Iowa, several Wisconsin, up into central Michigan. And then we can get into at least a 1/4 of an inch of ice, which is ice storm territory. There are some elevated probabilities out there, but not very high. But I do believe the best potential will probably be in central Michigan, where they'll be experiencing more freeze rain in a longer duration as well. But overall, there's going to be quite a bit of snow for a lot of areas in the parts of the northern plains, upper Midwest over the next couple of days. So definitely enjoy all the snow there if you do like snow up there as well. Hopefully it sticks around longer. And the good news is with some of the snow here, it's going to be hitting some areas that hasn't seen much of any snow this winter, like South Dakota, for example. So it's certainly a good thing for some of the folks out there as well. And when it comes down to ice, I don't think it's going to be a very significant event. Honestly, I think the biggest impact is going to be the travel impact. I don't think we're going to have much of an issue when it comes to power outages and stuff like that. I think it's going to be mainly on the travel as well, so definitely have to be careful out there as well. It doesn't take much ice to get slick roads. All right, so that's kind of winter side of things out of the way for the first system. Let's talk about the severe weather side of things. So this is for the rest of today. Maybe some thunder across parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, and Louisiana and Mississippi, and also for parts of the Northwest as well. And here's day two, which is tomorrow. We got slight risk for severe weather for parts of northern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, up into parts of northern Arkansas, and up into parts of southern Missouri as well. Here's your main threats here. There is an elevated tornado risk out there for parts of southeastern Oklahoma, up into parts of southern Missouri. That's a 5% chance. Damaging winds would be your primary threat, but we could also see some hail as well. There's going to be some elevated lap rates out there as well. And then on day three, which is Tuesday, we got a slight risk for severe weather for parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee as well. And all hazards could be possible on this event here as well. But honestly, I think the day that we should really pay attention to is Monday. So we're going to start with the HER model, and this is getting into the evening hours on Monday. You already got storms forming in the parts of northern Texas. You got one storm that's formed just north of the Dallas and Fort Worth metro area. The good news is that's going to be missing you guys to the north. And those are the storms we got to keep an eye on, especially if they stay discrete. Those have a better potential to become supercells. They can produce hail and also has a greater potential for a tornado as well. And it does seem like as we get deeper into the overnight hours, they begin to cluster up as well. They become less discrete. But if any storm that can at least stay a little bit away from that big cluster, it could continue on for a while here, producing some hail and also have a better opportunity for tornadoes as well. So that's definitely something we need to keep an eye on. And then as you get into Tuesday morning, you got storms that train over some of the same areas, and that's going to lead to a flash flood risk up there as well. Now, the HERMO does typically handle a little bit better when it comes to reflectivity, but it's not going to go exactly as it represents. You got to keep in mind that. But it does typically handle reflectivity better than most other models out there as well. Here's your significant tornado parameters here. And you can see here, the tornado parameters are definitely going to be elevated for this setup here as well. If we go along the Red River in parts of Oklahoma and Texas, you can see there is a little bit of a capping here, but that's expected to erode overnight. Keep in mind, this is going to be an overnight event. It's not going to be happening during the day because most of the day it's going to be capped, but when we get to the overnight hours, eventually that's going to erode as well. We've got quite a bit of dry air going on in the lower levels as well. We got a pretty decent hodograph. Then again, lap rates are going to be pretty elevated as well. But that's going to be favorable for some hail. Downdraft Cape is not too bad either. But with those upper level winds being a little bit stronger, we can still see some damaging winds out of these storms as well, especially when they start to cluster up as well. That's a pretty good sounding overall. And then you kind of move out ahead of those storms up into parts of Arkansas. The cap is still around, but there's also more wind shear to work with as well. And also still, then again, elevated lap rates at the mid-levels and still got a pretty good hodograph as well. So this is going to be a large warm sector. But also do notice here is that the dew point's right around 59 as well. A little bit below, but I think it'll still be favorable for severe weather. Regardless if it's 59 or not, those 60 dew points are likely getting up to that area later in the overnight hours as well. And you can see here, as you get into the early morning hours on Tuesday, your greatest severe weather risk potential moves up into parts of Arkansas, Tennessee as well. And let's see here. Let's check out the Updraft Policy here. This is going to tell you of the potential for any storms that will try to and rotate as well. And higher the numbers, the stronger the circulations could be in some of these storms. So this is what it kind of tells you. Which in this case here, if we go to max in the run here, it does have that risk for rotating storms, really anywhere from parts of northern Texas, goes through southeastern Oklahoma, northern Arkansas, and eventually getting up into parts of southwestern Kentucky in the early morning hours on Tuesday. So you can see here, these are going to be long track storms as well. They're going to be going through the overnight hours until that instability kind of runs out as well. There's going to be plenty of wind shear either way with this setup here as well. It just depends on how much instability we could get. But I think regardless here, we're not going to have a shortage of instability. So this is going to be a high confidence forecast that we could certainly see some severe weather out of the setup here as well. I do believe early on we could see some supercells, but it doesn't take much longer before a lot of these storms here do cluster up as well. And here's the high-risk NAM. A little bit similar here, but does have that cluster bias here. I think most of the storms are going to be discrete early on. But it kind of has that similar situation. Storms cluster up into the overnight hours. Now, I will say here that the high-risk NAM, compared to the last event, probably underdone with the coverage with showers and storms as well. That's something that I should probably note with the high-risk NAM as well. It's probably underdone with the coverage as well. Plus, it did not handle the last event very well. So I'll probably take this as a grain of salt from the high-risk NAM when it comes to reflectivity. However, it does not do a bad job when it comes to the environment as well. We're talking about instability and some of your parameters as well. You can see here, it does have a decent amount of instability to work with as well. Not as high as the Hermo. Honestly, I think it's a little bit underdone when it comes to instability values. But either way, it's still a favorable environment for severe weather because there's still going to be plenty of wind shear to work with. Which has got that 1,000+ joules per kilogram cape, getting all the way up into southern Illinois. Which honestly, I'm a little bit skeptical about the northern mode. If you guys do not know what a northern mode is, it's basically a risk that may have the potential for severe weather a little bit further north. And in the northern mode, it's going to be in the parts of Illinois and Indiana. Now, the reason why I'm a little bit skeptical of that is because of what happens further south. Let's go back to the HERM model real quick. This is the reason. And the HERM model did do pretty well on the last time's event and nailed that large area of convection as well. Now, if you got all this convection that goes on, it trains over some of the same areas throughout most of the night into the early morning hours on Tuesday, basically it's blocking all of these favorable dew points that are south of these storms here. You got decent amount of instability, you got favorable dew point values. Basically, it's a wall here. And all these instability values are feeding into these storms as well. So they're not going to be able to get past these storms here to the north. So if this occurs here, if you got this big area of convection that goes on over a large area, some of those instability values are not going to make it up into Illinois and Indiana. That's going to be a bust factor as well. But if we don't see as much convection, that does give a little bit better opportunity for some of these values to get a little bit further north as well. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. And with the higher SNAM not showing as much convection out there, it does get some favorable values up there as well. But I'll take the reflectivity as a grain of salt for the higher SNAM at this time as well. But then again, I'm probably leaning a little bit more towards the HER model for the time being. But our secondary area to watch will be a little bit further south. It does have some pretty good instability values down there as well, which if we do get a sounding down there in the parts of central Mississippi, definitely going to be a little bit more instability to work with on this setup here than last Thursday's event as well, which if you check it out, not as much wind shear to work with, but it's just enough to support some severe weather. I'm not really expecting this to be a significant outbreak or anything, but the gradients are just about there. Then we can see some isolated to scatter severe weather. I think the main threats are going to be gusty winds, and there could be an isolated tornado risk out there as well. So But we'll see how the trends go over the next couple of days down there across parts of Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana. And again, we'll have to watch and see what happens down there as well. Alright, so that's kind of the severe weather side effects out of the way. Let's talk about the flash flooding risk. And then again, like I said before, the HERM model does handle a little bit better when it comes to reflectivity. This is not even for the entire event yet. You already have pretty high rainfall amounts as well. Really, for very saturated grounds that we have here in Kentucky, you only need over an inch of rain. You could already get some flooding problems as well. And we got numbers that's in the 2 to 3 inch range. And that extends all the way back into parts of Arkansas and southeastern Oklahoma as well, where it's got some totals up to 4 inches of rain. So with very high precipitable water values with a setup here and some pretty good dew points, these are going to be pretty good, efficient rain producers as well. So they're going to produce a lot of rain in a short period of time. So this is going to lead to a pretty bad flooding situation if the HERM is correct. If those shower storms continue to train over some of the same areas, that's going to be a bad thing. And then again, the threat area pretty much extends from parts of northern Arkansas, and that goes all the way up into parts of central Kentucky as well. And models have been trending further north with this as well, but honestly, it would not surprise me if some of these models here come back a little bit south as well. Eventually, at some point here, we should get a little better agreement on this, hopefully by later tonight or tomorrow as well. Let's check out some of the other model guidance. In the NAB, it's not as aggressive here. It's honestly too far north with the heaviest band of rain, in my opinion here. It was the same situation with the last event, so honestly it would not surprise me if this comes back further south. And the highest NAM is probably going to be the same way as well. And I'm kind of leaning towards the HER model for right now. That's probably, and it does seem like the National Service offices are leaning towards the Severn mode, more of the HER model, which honestly I'm the same way as well. But it may come a little bit north as well. We'll have to see how the trends go. And again, over the next couple days here. And we can check out the Gfs Ensembles real quick as well. And you can see, at least for the first wave, it's further north. But the second wave is likely to be a little bit further south. But regardless, there's going to be a lot of rain out there as well. You got a pretty good mean out there, up to 4 inches of rain. That's a pretty strong mean from the Gfs Ensemble. So then again, expecting quite a bit of rain over the next couple of days throughout the week. We could be ending up with 4 to 6 inches of rain just this week here alone, but the more significant risk is looking to be Tuesday, which this is the excessive rainfall outlook for the Weather Prediction Center for day 3, which is Tuesday. You got slight risk for parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, even for parts of far southeastern Missouri, southern Illinois, and southern Indiana. If we go back a day, go back to Monday, real quick, you do have a slight risk for parts of eastern Oklahoma, northern Arkansas, and to southern Missouri as well. So anybody that lives in the slight risk area definitely needs to pay attention for that potential for flooding issues as well. And honestly, it will not surprise me on day 3 that we get to see a moderate risk upgrade. It will not surprise me. We might see that either tomorrow or maybe during the day on Tuesday. We'll have to see. But this is the rainfall forecast for the next 7 days. And you can see a lot of rain in the forecast. You got a widespread swath of 4 to 5 inches of rain on this map here as well. So then again, we definitely got to watch parts of the Ohio Valley, back into parts of the Texarkana region and the Ozarks. And really the biggest area, in my opinion, here to focus on will probably be the Kentucky and the Tennessee area vicinity as well. So you do live in these areas here, definitely got to watch for the risk over the next several days. But anyways, guys, that's all we got today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this video, hit the like button. If you do like my channel, hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications and never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put a comment section down below. Why don't you guys questions? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.